Hi, this is Tommy with Veith Consulting, and we're going to take a look at adding booth maps to your event registrations. The first thing you need to do is go to the configuration wheel icon up here, and we're going to go into the options and turn them on. So this is going to be under the Other Configuration Options Event Registration link, and scroll down until you find Booth Options. And within this area, you're going to find Enable Booth Registration for Events. This needs to be turned on and it will become active for all of your event registrations. Each event registration gets its own additional option to turn on and off the booth maps per registration. When that's turned on, we're going to go down and hit Save Configuration and return to the main menu. To turn on the booth map for a particular event registration, we're going to go to the event registration list page, and we're going to find our registration and go to Event Change. When the page finishes loading, we're going to scroll down to the Advanced Event Options tab here, and within it we are going to turn on the Enable Booth Registration for Event checkbox. And we're going to scroll down and save and continue to update the change. When this is turned on, you're going to find a booths link under Event Booths on the event list page, and this will open up to the booth map. On the event booth setup page, we're going to see the booth map down here empty. It's the grid at the bottom here. Above it, we have all the options to create booths, upload a background image, change the grid dimensions, or change verbiage on the grid. On the left is the Create New Booth green button. You can determine what size it's going to be in blocks. So it starts off at 2 by 2, and you can set a color for it to start as. Let's just add it currently as is, and you'll see it adds it under the New Booths green box on the right. You can then click and drag it onto the grid anywhere you'd like. To edit the booth, we're going to click the gear icon on it, and here you'll see the booth editor window pop up. We can add a booth name. Let's just call it booth number 1. We can add a price. This can be any number. You can also add a booth number, and it'll actually let you display the booth number as well. This is if you want a full page of numbered booths on it. You can change the number color, you can change the font size, and the XY position of the number on the booth square. You can also set your booths to be display only with this checkbox. On the right column, you have some customization options. You have your booth color. We can change the color of it to anything you'd like from the editor here. We can change the booth height and width using changing the numbers here. You can make your booth block be a triangle instead using the triangle mode button. You can change border color and border thickness and radius. And you can also change the booth rotation. This is set in degrees, so for example 45 degrees would be a diagonal or like a diamond shape. You have a booth description, which lets you add a text description that goes with the booth when they're viewing it. And lastly, if you want to delete a booth, you will just check this checkbox and hit save. Let's go ahead and save this one to see what it looks like. So here's our booth. Let's say we want to make a copy of this. You can either go through and add booths one by one and configure each, or you can set one up and copy it repeatedly. We'll click the copy booth button, and we'll see it gets added under the new booths area. And we can click and drag it into place. If we want to change the grid dimensions, we have the red button here. And this lets you edit how many rows and columns are in the grid for the booth map. You can also change the grid block height and block width. And additionally, you can give the grid background a color. If you want to change any verbiage on the grid page, you can click the yellow button here. And this will let you either add instructions to the booth page during registration, or verbiage on the public booth page, which is like a display-only version outside of registration. If you want to upload your background image, we're going to use the blue Upload Background Image button here. and then browse your computer to find the image. I have one prepared. Upload the image, and then crop it to fit. If it doesn't fit the crop tool, you may need to adjust your rows and columns for the grid. And when you're satisfied, we will just hit crop image at the top. And it'll let you see what the background image will look like. We can hit save or start over to go back to the crop page. And now we have the background image with the booths on top of it, and you can click and drag these to reposition them on the booth map. Here's an example of a filled out booth registration page. So this would be mid-registration, what registrants can see when they're picking a booth. They'll see any reserved booths marked in red with the lines over the box, and it'll also say booth reserved. They can select one by clicking on it, and it'll say select booth. And now we can see that's highlighted in green to show that that's a booth that this member has just selected. If there is a cost attached to the booth, it'll get added to the invoice total, and they would otherwise go ahead and continue with the registration. There are also a few extra booth-related configuration options that can be set. If you go to the configuration event registration area, you have options to display attendee information on chosen booths or hide attendee name on chosen booths. You can set an option to allow booths to overlap on the grid, and you can also disable the website header and footer on booth pages only, just in case there's anything that looks odd with the header or footer on those pages. When editing the event registration itself, under the Advanced Event Options area, there are additional checkboxes for enabling booth registration and admin only. This basically makes it so only admins will see the booth page and members do not. This is useful if you're only having your admins assign people to booths. You can hide the registration button on the public booth page. So if you display the public booth outside of the event registration and you don't want the registration button to be shown, you can turn that option on. And you can also require booth selection for attendees. So if you want them to be forced to select a booth when they're registering, that's another option. Thank you for watching. Let us know if you have any questions. Feel free to submit a support ticket.